Hey there, comic book fans. It's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and I am headed to a little comic book show here in the Baltimore area hosted by Clandestine Comics. Now, this is a comic book show I go to frequently. It has alternating sites between Laurel, Maryland and Hunt Valley, Maryland, and this particular one is in Laurel, which is real close to where I live, so it's an easy drive for me. Now, this is actually a special show. This is not a regular comic book show. It's called a CHUD, C-H-U-D, comics here under $1. Every comic at the show is $1 or less, and it's a real fun show to go to, just to dig and try to find some run fillers and sometimes find some special books that may have more value than $1, right? Especially if you get them graded by CGC. So several months ago, I did an episode where I was going to go to this particular show and I was going to do an experiment. I was going to take $25 and I was going to try to buy 25 comics basically for $1 that I could turn around, get graded, and possibly make a good potential profit. It was just like an experiment, and the whole idea was, can you start a resale business on $25? Well, it was a complete fail, and I hope you guys get a chance to watch that episode, because that show that I went to, I thought that was this show. It turned out it was just a regular comic show. I had my dates mixed up. So we're going to revisit that concept today. I'm going to go down there with $25, and I'm going to try to find 25 books that are undervalued for $1 that I can possibly get graded by CGC, and if we can get those 9.8s, especially the 9.8s, we'll see if we can actually turn this into a profit and have all those books for resale. Well, let's just have fun with it today. Go with me. I'm going to take some footage from the show, and then we'll come back and I'll show you all the books that I get, and we'll talk about the potential value on all those, and to see if I actually did a pretty good job of picking out some good books today. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back. All right, everybody, I just finished up at the show. Had a really good time. I got to see some people that I know, some of the dealers that I know. Jimmy from Battlefield Comics. You got Keith from TBC Comics down from Crofton, Maryland. You got Pat from MacMan Comics on Whatnot. So there's definitely some people there that I have gotten to know over the last few years, going to all the shows here in the Baltimore area. But even though I hope you enjoyed some of that footage, it is not the most exciting show to show on a YouTube channel because there are no wall books. Everything's $1, so nobody's bothering to put up wall books at a show like this. And I tell you, I'm exhausted. The room was packed. The air conditioning was not on, or maybe it was on a little bit, but it was packed, and it was hot, and it was sweating, and people were buying a ton of comics, and I was buying more than I expected. So the intent was to go in there, spend $25 on 25 books that we could invest in and see if we can get them graded, maybe really increase the value of those, and kind of start a resale business with those 25 books. Well, we're going to change this slightly just because I actually found more than just the 25 books. I found some things that I wanted for the PC as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go home and I'm going to sort out all the different books I bought, but I'm still going to try to pull 25 books that we can invest in to hopefully make a profit from. So it's still a good experiment, but I actually added to the PC a little bit too. So stay tuned. Let me get home and we'll show off all the books I picked up today.
Many unbearable hours later. All
right, everybody. So I finally got home and I sat down with all the comic books, and it's actually been a couple of days since I went to the show because it took me a while to go through every one of these comic books. And let's go back to the premise of what I'm doing today. My idea was, let's take 25 books at $1 each and see if we can start a comic book business with that. Can we make a profit with something like that? And how do I go about that? Well, in this example today, we're going to go with the CGC example completely. We're not going to worry about reselling comics as raws. What we're going to do is we're going to take the premise that we're going to get these books CGC'd and offer them for resale, basically. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the 25 books that I picked out, and I'll go through their values, and at the very end, we'll do a breakdown of how much it cost and what is the potential for these books. All right, guys, let's just get right into this. Let's start with the first book here. It is Spitfire and the Troubleshooters. It is part of that New Universe line of comics from Marvel back in the 80s. Now, you'll have to give me some leeway because I've got notes today. It's too many books to have notes up by the monitor so I can keep track of everything. So I'm going to be using the clipboard today. Spitfire and Troubleshooters, New Universe, September of 1986. And it's not a big book. It's not a key. And in fact, a lot of these books in here will not be keys. What you're betting on here is condition, scarcity, things like that. And especially in this case, and a lot of it's definitely going to be about condition and the age of the books. So September of 1986. This right here, Herb Trimp, I believe, did the artwork to this. Jim Shooter, I think, did the scripting. 9.8 potential on this right here is around $230. That was a best offer somebody offered on, so probably a little bit less, but we'll go with the 230 mark just for the sake of argument at this point. So what I'm going to do is we'll go through these, and you can already tell these are going to be based on me finding really good copies of books, and we're going to base this off the 9.8 model, and we'll address that at the end as well. But let's just go through these books pretty quick so we can go through all this and get to the end and talk about the breakdown. So I did find 3 really good copies of Legends #1. And this, of course, is from DC Comics 86 as well. This right here was the first appearance of Amanda Waller, and that is a key character in the Marvel Universe. Ever since then, we've had her in the DCU on TV, and just been a key character ever since she was introduced in this book right here. This book, I've actually had 9/8 on this, and I've sold them in the past, and the price has come down. Right now, on eBay, the lowest price you can find is $185, but the fair market value is $120. So I'm basing this off the $120 value at the moment, just for the sake of argument, because a listed price is definitely not a for sale price on eBay. So there's 3 books right there that I'm going to value, if we get those 9.8s, at $120 each. Next up was a book. Now, when I was going to the show and I went through all of these books, I got a lot more than just the 25. It wasn't just 25 and I was done. I went through a lot of books, and I'm going to do a follow-up video to this show where I'm going to show you the rest of the books, and we'll talk about why they didn't make the cut for this. And I think that was pretty interesting. It's probably just going to be a comic book haul, but I will address why they did not make the cut for these 25 books. But some of these surprisingly did. And this is one, I didn't buy it necessarily based on value. I based it on what a great Brian Bolland cover right there. It is Batman Villains Secrets, let me get it right, Secret Files. And cool looking book, but when I looked it up, I was actually surprised. There's a live one right now on eBay for $200. I have not seen any sold on this. And even though I just said that I don't want to base my prices on this right here, on this experiment, on live prices, there were so few of this, I did base this as a $200 book at the moment. But what a great cover. I mean, that is really spectacular right there. And it's funny, some of these books, I didn't buy all of them just to do this experiment. Some of these ended up, a lot of these, that's why I ended up with a lot more books. Some of these ended up being a completely PC type of pickup, but surprisingly, their value was a lot better than I expected. So some of those that were for the PC ended up in this pile, and some that I thought were going to be in this pile did not end up in it at all. Now, the next book is a book, I think this is probably the best book I picked up the whole show. It is Blue Devil Annual #1, and the condition is really, really good. It has a little defect down at the bottom. I don't know if it'll hit that 9.8. But what's interesting about this book is it is the unofficial first appearance of Justice League Dark. And you guys, if you're bringing on YouTube, Justice League Dark is something that's highly spec'd on. And there is I think it's a Swamp Thing annual or a book that is the official first appearance. But look at the characters that are in this, and you've got most of those members right there. So this is kind of the unofficial. And currently on eBay, there is one listed for over $200 at a 9.6. There are no 9.8s on the census as far as I can tell. It's very few on the census. It's very low. And even a 9.4 reaches a $100 value. Now, I think I based this one on a $100 value just to be a little cautious on that. But I think this is still a really good copy. 9.6 potential, I think. But I based it on a 9.4 to give the benefit of the doubt. Now, I did run into a dealer who had a ton of Marvel Age books, and I picked up a bunch I thought were really spectacular conditions. None of them are really keys, but again, I bought it because I love this book. I love the book. I grew up with this. This was junior high, high school, early college, but I don't mind having these in the PC. These are pretty cool, and I bought those mostly for the PC. But again, surprising value. 9.8 on issue number 14 here. The John Byrne recreation of Fantastic Four #1 cover. Right there, this was May of 1984. 9/8, $125. Wow, I didn't expect that at all. And then issue number 33, and I did buy this one because it is probably one of the first appearances of X Factor. You've got December of 1985, $165, 9.8. Now, I will have some more Marvel Age books later in the show, but we're going to switch over to DC right here. Now, this was a book, I don't think it's going to hit a 9.8. It's possible in that 9.4 range, and it's such a low census book that I could only find a price for a 9.8. December of 1980, Elson's Comic Book Heroes, or DC Superheroes, I guess. And a book that looked vaguely familiar, but I had never seen it before. It's in really good shape, although I don't think it's a 9.8 candidate. I think it's probably closer to that 9.4. 9.4's, yeah, $61, but the potential right there is a lot more. I did leave this at $61 for the potential, though. And that's a little bit lower, but I thought it was an interesting book to throw into this as a potential book to make a little bit of money on. Next up was one that I bought. It wasn't for resale. I bought it because I want to get it re-signed because I kind of messed up the signing years ago. But I believe I had Mike Manley sign this, and then I want to say I wanted to get Joe Quesada, but there's a little bit, the Mike Manley autograph ended up smearing, and I didn't want to waste it on a Joe Quesada at that point, but this is a book that I want to get Joe Quesada to sign at some point. He's got this great cover right here. But surprisingly, Batman 500 here has some value at a 9.8, $120. So that's not too bad. Now, one dealer that I picked this Batman up from, he was giving out free copies of Spectacular Spider-Man 203. Sal Buscema, of course, was the artist on that. I think he even did the cover here, although you can't really tell that that's a Sal Buscema cover or anything. But that's a really cool Carnage cover. Free book, right? I didn't even pay $1 for this. This show, every book right now is so far $1. Right there, this right here, $95 for a 9.8. It's not too shabby for a free book, I don't think. But I tried to pick out a pretty good copy on that. He had a whole bag of those that people were picking them out from. Now, next up is actually a pretty good key comic in really good shape. It is Fantastic Four 348. It is the cover appearance, I guess. I don't know if it's technically the first appearance of the new Fantastic Four, Ghost Rider, Grey Hulk, Wolverine, Spider-Man. But what a great book. I've gotten this book signed by the writer, Walt Simonson. The inker inside is partially by Al Milgrom. And, of course, this beautiful cover and the interior artwork by Art Adams. And I've gotten all three of those creators to sign a very, very good copy. It's not a 9.8 candidate, but it is a 9.6, 9.4 candidate. And I'm just going to keep it raw. But I've got all three of them to sign this book. This right here is a really nice cover. And the back, even though it's not bagged and boarded, I paid $1 for this. Got that dark cover at the top there. There's no spine ticks on this. This is a really nice copy that normally you'd pay $10 or $12 for near mint from off of eBay or something. Now, did I give you a value? I can't remember. 9.8s on this, $150. Next up was one that I gotta say, I wasn't a big fan of the artwork from Charlton Comics for the most part, but when you find an old book like this and you look at the condition, and again, this is me going off condition, and then you're like, well, what's it worth, right? If you can get it graded. And this is just me taking potluck shots here. This is Dr. Graves number 74, and it's a really nice copy. And for a book this old, this book right here, September of 1985, it actually feels like it should be like early 70s, but it's still a pretty old book. And there's only 2 books on the census. Right now, value of this at a 9.8 is $155. Now, here's a book everybody is probably very familiar with from the 90s. You've got Silver Sable number 1. You've got that foil cover plus embossing. I mean, it's the double threat right there. Oh, 3, it's a cardstock cover. So it's a little bit tougher. If you get a crease, you're not going to be able to get that out of cardstock cover. But 9.8s on this, $125. And I'm going to have to flip over here. Like I said, we got 25 books. So we're up to number 15. And million copies probably were produced of Young Blood number 1. First issue from Rob Liefeld from Image here, April of 1992. It's so well produced. So many were produced. A 9.8 is only about $80. But this is about the point where I'm having a little bit of a drop off in some of the prices. As I said, I bought a lot of books, and to try to find 25 that were really going to be worth my time, possibly to get CGC'd and to make some money at this and to do this experiment, I went ahead and included it, even though it's only an $80 book. Now, I was contemplating throwing this into what would it be if I got Rob Liefeld to sign this, and assuming it's still a 9.8. That's a different story. There's actually profit in that, but I'm not talking. There's going to be a case later on that I do include a signed book, but I do wrap that cost into everything just a little bit. But in this case, I did not include the Rob Liefeld signature as a potential profit on this experiment today. Now we're back to Marvel Age. This is number 63. I pretty much had dropped the title for the most part at this point. This is from June of 1988. It's midway through college. I had kind of stopped buying these. I mean, it did go up. It doubled in price since when I first started. It's up to 50 cents now. That's a lot of money. But I went and picked it up this day from this dealer because it is spotlighting the new X-Men show, special preview of the X-Men TV show. And I thought that was kind of neat. I don't particularly care for the artwork there, but it's your classic X-Men right there from that era. This dealer actually had a lot more different Marvel Age that I didn't pick up. And I said, I've never seen so many at a comic show before from one dealer. And he said he was working on a complete run of Marvel Age and he had so many extra copies that he was selling them. And I thought that was kind of cool. Another Marvel Age, and I always love this cover. This is Bill Sienkiewicz on issue number 16. They're spotlighting the New Mutants, and you've got this beautiful Bill Sienkiewicz cover right there. That's a book that I'd almost want to get that signed. That's so good. This right here, actually, you know what? Let's go back real quick. So issue 63, I forgot to give you the price. Only a $68, CGC 9.8. Marvel Age number 16, 9.8, $75. Again, we're seeing that price come down a little bit. I'm struggling a little bit more to break that $100 barrier in some of these. Not that I necessarily thought this was going to be a world killer, but prices did come down a lot, and I did struggle. There were books that I thought were going to be on this list that are in the pile that's sitting off to the side here that just did not make the cut, and some of them are really surprising. And again, I'll do a follow-up show to this so you guys can see the books that I thought were going to be more valuable that I will definitely not get CGC'd, even though some of them are some spectacular books. But here are some books coming up right now that I didn't buy to be part of this experiment. I bought them because potential runs that I'm working on. Everybody knows I'm working on the Invaders run. That has got me onto some other runs of some similar other books, including All-Star Comics, Justice Society books. And that, when you go to the JSA, that also opens up, and All-Star Comics, I should say, it opens up a couple of other avenues, including Infinity Inc., which is a spinoff of the JSA, and it's still Roy Thomas, and it's got characters that aren't necessarily the mainstream that are really good. But I picked up a run, they had a small batch from one dealer, and I'm going, yeah, this is a run I could see myself working on at some point. Let's go ahead and pick these up. And I wasn't even thinking about it, but issue number 29 right here. And what you're going to see is the same thing in all of these books right here. It's Todd McFarlane art. These are not Key Comics, but it's Todd McFarlane early art here. This is issue number 29, August 1986, $130, 9.8. I was actually a little surprised. As well as issue number 28. This is $130, again, Todd McFarlane art. Issue 32, and you've got $140, 9.8. I mean, this took me by surprise on these right here a lot. And I think it's mostly because of the scarcity. I mean, it is Todd McFarlane art, but it is also probably the scarcity of people getting this graded too. Issue number 26. This was the shocker of all of them for me. $200 for this right here. Now, these are not necessarily prices sold. Again, this price is listed, but we'll kind of throw this into the mix because I don't have a big census to go by on this right here. Now, this book right here, I said that we're up to, by the way, we are up to number 22 on the list. This is a book I picked up before. I was going to take it to Heroes Con, but I didn't make it to that, so to get signed. But I picked up another really good copy of this, especially for $1, because the copy I picked up months ago of this same book I paid $20 for. This book's in really good shape, although it's not perfect, and we'll talk about that. But it is the one book that I want to get signed, and I'm going to consider how much it costs to get the signer to sign, including the CGC fees and things like that, and then what the potential is with the signature. It is Action Comics number 484. You've got this beautiful Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Sorry, I always mess his name up. Book right here. You've got this the wedding cover, Lois and Superman. beautiful cover. This right here has a small color breaking tick down at the bottom. The rest of it looks pretty good so far. 9.4. I'm going to go with a 9.4 and a 9.2 price on this. 9.4, $121 with a signed copy. 9.0 is $100. I think I went with the 9.4 on this for the sake of the argument. But that's a really spectacular cover. I'm going to take this to Baltimore Comic-Con this year. Jose Luis Garcia Lopez is going to be there, just like he was at Heroes Con. But Baltimore's in my backyard. I'll be there this year, and I will get him to sign this, as well as some of the new books that they've been putting out with some of his classic cover character designs as well. But that right there was the only signed book that I included in this experiment. Now, number 23 on the list is another mass-produced book from Image, The Max, number 1. This is a really nice copy. There's been talk over the last couple of years of, you keep hearing The Max talked about here and there. Price, I think, has actually come down on that on the 9.8. It's down to $80. I did pick up also from Image Comics, Kabuki number 1. This is not the original series. This is from Image. This is, of course, David Mack's creation and David Mack art and story on this right here. I guess it's a second series. I don't know if that's true or not, but issue number 1 from Image Comics, 91, I'm sorry, 97. $100 right there, $100, 9.8. And last on the list, and I kind of struggled on this a little bit, but it is not the first series, but the second series of Savage Dragon number 1. And again, another book. It's only a $65, 9.8. The dealer who had this, I actually picked up other copies of this, and I've got those in the pile over here. I only included one today because it's only a $65, 9.8. Even though it is a very tough black cover over here, and early Image Comics with the quality of the paper wasn't quite so good. But this dealer, he had a short box, and I think half of that short box were copies of Savage Dragon number 1 right there. But guys, that's it. That's 25 books that I've pulled out to see if we could start a comic book business on this. And the premise, and you're going to maybe bust on me for the start of this, at the show, at the title of the show was Starting a Comic Book Business on $25. Well, here's the deal. What I said at the beginning of this segment right here was I'm going to base this on everything getting graded, and we're going to assume in most cases 9.8 on the grading, but everything in this thing has to get graded. So while you start with $25, there's a big expense to kind of jumpstart this and to actually make money on this. I'm not taking it from the point of view where I'm going to sell these and sell these for raws. I'm actually going to go over that in another video with the other books and some of the potential. Why those books didn't make it to this one, but why they would be good for resale as raw books. We'll cover that when I do the comic book haul with the rest of the books in the next video. But this one right here is based on everything getting graded. So let's go through and do the breakdown of all the cost. So we've got 25 books here. $25, although one of them was free, but we'll just round it up to that $25 for the sake of argument, because I would have paid $1 for that book anyway. So $25. 25 books with grading at CGC. With my membership, I got the elite membership, so right now it's costing me $20 a book, plus shipping, and I rounded that up a little bit. Going to CGC and coming back, I might be off a little bit, but I'm going to round everything to $530 more to get these graded, send them to CGC, get them back from CGC. So we're up to $555 now spent. The best case scenario, if I could sell every one of these at the prices that I mentioned as we went through every book here, is $3,201. Minus that $555, you're down to $2,646 minus eBay fees and shipping supplies. Basically, I rounded that into it. I'm rounding that to about $382, taking us to what the potential profit on this whole order is $2,264. And my takeaway on this is that, oh my God, that sounds great. Let's do this. But this kind of an experiment is fraught with a lot of risk. These were $1 books that you're finding at a show where people are rummaging through, and I think I picked out some really good copies. But I really have got to take my time, and just like any book that you get graded, you've got to take your time and make sure that it's going to be worth your time doing that. And I can tell you, in most of these cases, it's probably not going to be worth my time in doing that, especially for the books that valued out at under $100. I mean, the margin on individual books like that are going to be pretty low. And here's the other thing, is if anything gets graded lower than a 9.8, I didn't go through and thoroughly look at the prices on that, but my experience has been most cases, these are common books. They're not big keys at all, is that the price will fall off the cliff and it won't be worth your time. These will have to go in on 9.8 pre-screens, and then you're talking about failures that are going to cost money that you, of course, you didn't spend more money, but you're not going to make any profit at that. They're going to come back raw, so that's just money going out. So I didn't do all that figuring in there, but guys, it's going to be pretty risky to do this kind of experiment completely. And trust me, I am not going to actually send this out as a giant batch to do this experiment. That's too expensive. It's too much of a risk, to be quite honest. But I wanted you guys to see the kind of potential that you have by dollar bin diving in a case like this. Now, granted, there will be some of these that actually go in, and as I go through the next year, as I'm getting books into CGC, I'm going to earmark these books and we'll see at some point, we'll do a follow-up on any of the books that sell in this, and I'll bring it up during any particular video, and we'll talk about the difference from when I actually sell one of these books after getting them back versus what was in this video. So it's going to be a long drawn out thing, and I kind of guess that we really don't have a final answer to everything in this video, but I wanted you guys to see what the potential is, and basically one way you could start a comic book resale business by doing a similar thing. So guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. Definitely leave me some feedback by leaving me a comment in the comment section below. And if you like this kind of content, definitely hit that like, slap the subscribe, and click on the notification bell so you guys don't miss out on any of the episodes that I put out Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 3 p.m. All right, guys, I'm out of here. You have a great day, and remember, every comic has a story.